Welcome back, guys. Another episode of the Sports Card Podcast with me, the Card Boss, and today we're going to talk about one-on-ones. Okay, I know the thumbnail says I flipped 3 one-on-ones for $10,000 profit. I will get into the financial details of that few transactions, but more for today's discussion is about the one-on-ones itself, on some stories and learnings that I've got throughout the last couple of years on how people view one-on-ones a bit differently back then compared to where they are today, the difference in price points, and how do you access values of one-on-ones, and of course how did I manage to flip 3 one-on-ones that I purchased from on online marketplace, which comps are readily available, and made a $10,000 profit in a short period of time. Okay, so let's talk about one-on-ones. So obviously it's exactly what it means, right? Just one of a kind. Back then, I guess one-on-ones really had more meaning, okay, whereby it was kind of like the tough chase. I remember we talked about 1997 masterpieces, those are grails. Okay, so compared to when you see 2023, many years later, one-on-ones, you have multiple insert sets, multiple parallels with one-on-ones, maybe like easily 10 or a dozen different one-on-ones within the same set, kind of a bit saturated overall. Okay, and that's why the difference in the huge price points compared to if you actually obtain a one-on-one back then versus a one-on-one today, whereby maybe a one-on-one of a normal random player would fetch you at least $10,000 or $5,000 to $10,000, whereas compared to today, a random one-on-one, perhaps it'll be like a couple $100. A decent player will get you maybe about 500 or to about $1,000 for non-rookie one-on-ones. So times has changed definitely, but at some point, I remember during the sports card boom where everybody was just trying to make money off everything, one-on-ones were really a hot discussion topic because, right, when we was just starting to get accustomed to comps, okay, there was of course back then there was 130point.com, market movers just started back then, and people were just buying and selling, referencing to comps. And with one-on-ones, exactly, there's only one of a kind, usually comps go out the window. So there was a strategy back then where people would like to buy one-on-ones to resell, and the theory behind it is, look, it's just one of a kind in the world, I can ask for anything I want, right? So it's very common to see back then that if you come across a one-on-one, right, it's priced ridiculously high, let's say something that's 50,000 or best offer, and in fact, even though an offer were to come in, it's hard to tell whether or not that offer is a fair price or not, because there isn't any market comparison. So when one-on-ones, because these days there are tons of one-on-ones that gets traded all the time, right? And what are the sets, the one-on-ones that we are very familiar with today? The blacks, the gold vinyls, right? The nebulas, the superfractors. So these are all considered pretty common one-on-ones today, and it's readily available in many different players, many different insert sets, and across many years. So I wouldn't say one-on-ones are not special. They are still pretty special, okay? Especially if you are a super collector for a particular player, you definitely want to have a couple of these one-on-ones into your collection, because that's something that nobody else would have, okay? But with so many one-on-ones these days, right, how do you differentiate one from the other? How do you tell the price points between one to the other, right? At the end of the day, it's still one-on-one, but without any direct price comps, okay, it's hard to really gauge the value if, let's say, these one-on-ones were not brought into market originally. So for today's video, I'm going to share you the 3 one-on-ones that I acquired towards end of 2024 and subsequently resold them between January 2025 and one more in February 2025. Okay, so the 3 one-on-ones that I'm going to show you is this: the Luka 2023 Select Black Finite Lodestone PSA 10. There's the Anthony Edwards 2023 Mosaic Black, okay, BGS 9.5, and the big one here, Okay, 2020 flawless 101 Anthony Edwards rookie auto. Okay, graded a PSA authentic with an auto of 10. Okay, now for the Anthony Edwards, the black mosaic and the flawless were acquired from eBay. Right, I'm going to show you how much I paid for them and all those kind of stuff. Okay, and for the Luka, I bought it from the Fanatics Collect weekly auction. Okay, so comps for these cards are readily available. You can search them up on Card Ladder, which is exactly what I did to pluck out the numbers here for you guys. Okay, all from Card Ladder. So the question is, if this is what I paid for, okay, how am I to know that I'm going to make a good profit on these cards, right? How do I know how much money should I be paying for these cards in the first place, right? So I'm going to take you down on a path on my train of thought when it comes to 101, which may help you guys to assess values for specific 101s down the road. Okay, so for me, when it comes to buying 101s, the first thing that's pretty important, right, is of course the player. Okay, those days, like I mentioned, right, it's fine to be buying, you know, 101s or random players like, you know, maybe let's say John Stockton. I know he's a Hall of Fame, it's not random, but Alonzo Mourning and stuff like that. So it's fine to buy those players back then, but to buy random 101s today, right, it's kind of like, you know, you buy a Kevin Love, for example, or you buy a RJ Hampton. You know, these guys don't mean much. Yeah, they're 101s, but they don't mean much. So you gotta be buying the good players. Obviously, they come with a price tag. Okay, but as I mentioned before, the prices on the 101s for these players, especially the parallel 101s, the blacks, the gold vinyls, they're not as expensive as before. Okay, I'm not talking about logo mans or autograph patch 101s. Okay, that's a different feel altogether. So I'm just referring to the two blacks that I got recently, end of last year. Okay, so for the Luka 101, I paid $1,900, close to $2,000, and I paid a similar amount for the Anthony Edwards itself. Now, how do I come up with this amount? Okay, so obviously when you look at, these are not rookie years. Okay, these are for Anthony Edwards, it's like year 3, and for Luka it's like year 5. Okay, so these are already past the rookie years. So you can do a rough assessment based on the past 101s, maybe from a 2022 101 comparison. Okay, you won't get the exact amount, but you can get a rough estimate. But the one key factor that I always look in 101s is the eye appeal of the card itself. So 101s, yep, they can come in nice, gold vinyls or super fractors. They can come in nebulas as well. I like the color of nebulas overall, even more so than the blacks. But the eye appeal of the card is important. Okay, so the player is important, the eye appeal is important, and if contrary to what some people believe, the grade is important as well. Okay, people will say that, look, it's a 101, the grade doesn't matter. If you want to command the highest amount of profit to resell, yes, it does matter. Okay, if you're buying for a PC, right, it doesn't matter because it's coming to a PC anyway. So even though it's a PSA 6 or a PSA 7 101, it doesn't matter, okay, because it's for your PC. But to resell, if you have a solid player or a strong player, if you have a card that has a nice eye appeal in the special grade like a PSA 10 or BGS 9.5, these are kind of cards that will command strong return. Now, when I bought these two blacks, okay, at about $2,000 each, would I know that I was going to make money on each of them? I had a good feeling that I would, but how much was the question? Okay, I do strongly believe that if a 101 black, okay, for Luka or for Anthony Edwards would definitely be worth more than $2,000. Yeah, for some reason, that's what I believe in. Is it going to be a $10,000 card? I don't think so, right? When you want to compare to a Luka, let's say for example, a flawless, a National Treasures autograph patch number 250, okay, on 5th year, okay, it's probably going to fetch you about 1,500 raw, okay, and a great PSA 10 maybe will get you maybe about like $3,000 as an example. So a black 101s roughly may reach about that number, but it will not far and exceed that number, if you you get what I mean, right? It won't be worth more than double of what a PSA 10 fifth year autograph patch will worth. Okay, so that's how I view it. But definitely $2,000 was kind of like a solid price that I was willing to pay. In fact, I was willing to go up maybe about $2,500, which is, I think, a fair price to pay. Okay. Now, what did I sell? What did I sold these two cards for? Right. So I sold the Luka, okay, for about $3,500 on the Finesse Collect weekly auction. I'm going to talk a bit about the weekly auctions in a bit. Okay, so $3,500 for the week for the Luka, and about $4,500 for the Anthony Edwards, which is just pretty recent in February as well. So massive gains for this one. A bit of fees gets taken off as well, but massive gains for these two. Exactly what I anticipated for these one-of-ones, and strong grades as what I mentioned earlier, because out there would be a real collector, right, who would want a nice looking one-on-one for their favorite player. Obviously, Luka and Anthony Edwards has lots of fans out there, lots of collectors out there in a very strong grade. So if for some people who really don't have that kind of capital to invest in a very expensive Luka National Treasures RPA, okay, but they still would like a centerpiece in their PC, this will be one of them. And that's why having a price point under 5k or so for your centerpiece is kind of reasonable thing to pick up a solid one-of-one like this. Like, obviously a Nebula would be nice. I would take a Nebula over any of these two, and I believe there's a Luka Nebula that's ending on coming soon. It's already at like $10,000 and still going with a couple of days to go. So again, why is that more expensive? Because of the IRPO. All right, let's touch on the Anthony Edwards. This one's a bit interesting. So obviously Anthony Edwards, flawless autograph rookie auto, it's going to be in demand, okay, and more so this is a one-on-one, but this was created a PSA authentic, okay, so no numerical grade on it, but fair because it's a one-on-one, okay, it doesn't really need a numerical grade. And this appeared on eBay auction, okay, around October of last year. Now I had a hunch that this would fetch more than $20,000, okay, and I was willing to go for about like 18 grand on this card. The thing is, it closed at $15,600, okay, which I find it a bit peculiar on why a one-on-one would end at this price. Of course, subsequently, when the Anthony Edwards Logo Man, flawless Logo Man one-on-one, no auto, so for 102k, I got pretty excited. But looking at that, right, I did feel that I definitely going to make some money here. It's a question of how much. And at that point in time in December, I was considering to bring this card to the Hong Kong card show with me, with the intention to try and see if I could get $40,000 on it. But I just realized that that's not the kind of show that would, somebody bring that amount of cash with. So I decided to put it back, okay. Now, in January, okay, I decided to put this card on auction, okay, to acquire a particular card, which I'm going to talk about in another video after this one. But there was a reason why I wanted to move this card, but I was fairly confident that I was going to do a lot better than the $15,600 that I paid. And true enough, okay, it auctioned for $21,600, which is roughly around my initial estimate for this card. And I wasn't very far off. I was dreaming about $40,000, but $20,000 was kind of beyond the number that I was expecting to get. So all in all, right, these three cards combined together, before you take away fees, if you guys are doing the math here, right, I do make about $10,000 in profit on these three one-on-ones, which clearly had market comps. Okay, the three buy transactions that I did in September, in October, okay, were all on card ladder, which you guys can see. So because, like I mentioned, it met the criteria of being a solid player, solid card, solid grade, high appeal, okay, these are the cards that will always remain desirable. And if you feel that you're going in at the right price point, okay, you're definitely going to make money on this thing. So the concept of saying that because it's a one-of-one you can command for anything is kind of a bit true untrue. Okay, I could have had these cards I put into my buy now best offer and put it like a $10,000 price and wait for somebody to give me a huge offer, but I wouldn't know what would be fair anyway. I just know that it's worth more than what I paid. Okay, and I'll just let the market to decide on how much that it exactly worth, and I got my answer. Still very happy with the outcome. What will it sell for higher another round after this? Who knows, right? But one thing's for sure is I'm not going to pay the price that I actually sold it for. That's for sure. All right, that's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Do like, subscribe, follow my channel. We talk about more content about cards, business, finance, and investing. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, till the next one. God bless out.